Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Proverbs with Paul in the afternoon, this beautiful sunny day here in Swanage. So, Proverbs chapter 4, and Solomon, having given us the instruction to listen to a father, he then says in verse 3, "When I was a son to my father, tender and the only son in the sight of my mother." So he's preparing the way, but he wants us to know what part of him has been prepared. So he's saying, when I was a child, when I was a little boy, when I was a son to my father, when I was seen in the eyes of my mother in a tender way, meaning like it had the protection and the covering of a mother. So the security was all around and everything was new, that sense of wanting to educate the child. So he says, when I was a son to my father, tender. And the word tender really conveys a sense of warmth and affection. And then he goes on, and I was the only son in the eyes of my mother, meaning that I was precious in my mother's eyes. So much so that she would have given anything to protect me, to keep me safe. So sadly in these days, that reality is often missing in the lives of children. They never know what it's like to have the tender love of a father or the sacrificial affection of a mother. So often the reality of children today is that they're just kind of dragged up in this climate of hostility and offence, and the input of education that should be theirs at that precious age when they're most influential. 0 to 5 is the precious age when everything goes in. I remember even as my own childhood, I reflect upon my own sense of my mother. She gave me away when I was 6 along with my brothers and sisters, and that sense of having a father to educate and a mother to kind of protect and to be seen as precious, from my point of view, never really came. And so, but many in these days are increasingly experiencing that reality, and yet not in this case. Solomon says, no, when I was precious and tender in the eyes of my father. And of course, we need to remember who his father was. His father was David, the great psalm writer who knew how to interact and be intimate with God. And he had the privilege of this input of being tender in the eyes of his father and his mother, this sense of love and affection and commitment. Brothers and sisters, we need to remember that children need to be loved and they need to be taken care of. And these are the days when Christians need to love and protect and care for their children to set an example to the rest of the community about us. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day. Be blessed, and I'll see you tomorrow.